the couple times that I've been like questionable, they're like, no. I'm like, are you kidding me? And like you sent me somewhere to do whatever.
You did.
It's different each time. Sometimes it's the right way, sometimes it's wrong. It depends. It's nice. It's nice angle.
Yeah, because the light.
No, I want like Chris Kringle. That would be. Oh no, I want it outside.
But it's definitely the same way she was.
I want like a Christmas story with a line of kids wearing masks, waiting to sit on the lap of Chris Kringle.
What would your fucking glass?
That would be good. Yeah.
So how does this work? There's 5 in the room at the beginning, and then we wrote.
Okay, so this
So
This
where did that
is-
sound like a kid?
I need to move it.
To the back. Here, this is that's all right.
Yeah.
I know.
How about that guy?
I shot the other day. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I shot that.
At least it's in the direction. Straight back 10 minutes on.
I shot that. I see that. I see that. Maybe once in a while. That photo. It's a
Should
board.
be doing his national treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on whoever. Nobody's gonna do that for you. I mean, I don't even know where the headquarters are. Somewhere in Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just gonna walk and
No,
see.
that's what I'm there. They stopped that. So we can't really do it.
Literally just double whatever I'm at now. You know, you're just doing it.
Hey, that's just fine.
I don't know.
But yeah, I'm like, the thing is, they thought every day in the office, time, $15. It's like, I know. Yeah. Okay, girl. Yeah. I'm also like, it definitely doesn't come out in the wash. So
Garrett. Sir?
man, I
did.
appreciate
I
it.
left before it went up.
Bees? Oh, they need to be.
No.
These are my nice ones. I mean,
I
they're
know,
getting
but
a little
like, I hate
aggressive.
when people post and you're like, oh, those are nice and neat, honey.
Well, I've got like shit pickers I've had from the high school that I've resold.
Oh,
But
that's
these are supposed to be nice, and if they're falling apart.
I'm terrible if I can't wear here because
I'm gonna
I
stop the.
look like I was out.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's my other picker.
I love them though.
I think they're more comfortable than like regular men.
Yep, that's what I was
Pretty much
gonna
any
ask.
design.
Yeah.
That's the long one of those like standing the whole way outside your all day kind of. But then it's good.
Kind of cool. You're fancy,
Yeah.
you don't have to do that.
And you sort of have to now, like, talking to somebody about this
I'll,
other day,
I
like,
think I will. I think I will.
all the bullshitting time has been real, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't have the same
In
kind of
general, that place in the morning.
accidentally talk to 5 people, senators throughout the course of the day, but they sure in hallways or whatever. Like, that's all gone. You have to be more intentional about it. All right, I'm cool with this. The NBC's cool with this, so I guess I better go, because otherwise I'm not gonna talk to them.
Two right there, three right here. Right.
At least that's my attitude, 'cause I don't
Four right there.
have chit chats anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
When I'm eating out and I have kids behind me, you know, like if I don't have a hit till 10, like I'm gonna get here at 9:45. Like I'm not gonna come in early and work late. How are you? Fine. I mean, we're, you know, no, I mean, it's some sort of combination of everybody's still figuring out their face like some shit. And,
conversation. Is that right?
Like, actually, I think we got here.
Is that right? I didn't know how I got there. Thank you. Yeah. Well, Jim, a little right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right.
When my hair's short, I kind of can't tell, but the longer it gets,
Yeah.
you get that one.
I have one.
Nothing wrong with gray, gentlemen.
Dude, I like it.
I'll think I have my two younger brothers, both like progressively losing their hair.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll take the gray over losing my hair. The youngest brother though,
Hey, good morning, how you
started
doing?
it and like shaved it, like with the full like Jason Statham, like just buzzed it really short. And he looks way younger than we did when he was like, the halo.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, with all things, just be
Go
it.
for it.
Yeah.
I should go with that one, Jay.
Saving it, I'm going to.
Let's do it.
Raz has been saying for years that
I don't even think you have to go full Brez with the big, you know what I mean? I think you could just do like a buzz.
I'm
Yeah.
losing it in a really elegant way. So like it's gonna be bad. Right now it's high, like actually growing and smooth. But like you can tell the next couple of years I'm gonna hit a yeah, it is. Which is fine. I mean, major things in sports, I'm not gonna pay for hurt.
There is a difference between bald, gray, and balding.
Which is not great.
So just,
Not yet. I know. Brez is like, Brez always looks at my hair and he's like, you're gonna be coming my way soon. I think I'm right. You're gonna be there.
I guess. You're gonna be moving through, right?
How many are there? 5 or 6? Thanks, yeah. There's 5 minutes.
That seems reasonable.
That's cool.
I think it's just 6.
Right, right.
I thought that was, you're not gonna put that anymore?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Jonathan.
No, I'll be here. I'm good.
Yeah, he was there right
I'm gonna be in the hallway, then I might come in here for the first time.
Whatever.
I should have, she's usually there for like 10 minutes.
Can we rotate? We need to do this.
Yeah, and we'll rotate.
Yeah, kind of.
You're not for the first hit? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do about 3 minutes.
Well, can't really
Set a timer.
Off my.
But I thought we were doing 3 minutes for, yeah. I bet it needs to be packed. Oh, so this is my only op. Okay, good. Well, so you're here for, 37 or so, and then you're here for 37. Oh. Okay, I'm glad you clarified that. I thought you meant that we had 3 minutes and then go to the next spot. No. 3 minutes per week, so that we can accommodate as many people as possible. And we have to go through it. Yeah, ideally that direction. Okay. Ideally, we're going to clockwise first, and we're not reinventing anything, so we take the most. That's fine. Okay. Yeah.
Can I just stay here for 3 minutes and then I'll log out?
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
But I mean, 3 minutes is about what it takes. to take a photo.
30 seconds, but you have it on. We all did.
Why isn't it the cool thing?
I mean, really, can he just do it for all of us?
That's all I wanted.
You should treat it like a game.
I think Reynolds should just do the whole thing.
No, that's fine. I was just wondering if I have to move.
Yeah, 30 seconds in each spot.
Okay. So I should go there.
Okay.
I'm not that familiar. I'm sorry. Cool. Got it. No, never.
7 years. Never done that.
Not one. Not me.
I hear ya.
Done other stupid things, but
Scott, man.
Yeah. What actually makes me nervous about that is, he was exposed a week ago and has had that, knows he had all these negative tests in between.
Yeah,
Like
but I think my wife told me he had rapid, not PCR.
Oh, really? No, that makes me feel slightly better.
The rapids, even the best ones, are only like 80-something%.
I know, I've been telling my family and my family, like, the rapids are trash. Like, just going.
No, like if you get one every day, then you're probably fine because the law of averages or something
I
like that.
guess, but I mean, I was very impressed with the system here, having done it yesterday.
Very good.
I did it this morning, yeah. That's right.
You went again to that?
Yeah, I went Tuesday and today.
Today, I don't
Next
know.
week,
this morning. I was told by the
probably
Hill,
open.
by
Where is it?
the marketing people yesterday that they're doing it through the end of the year.
But they will do it next week too.
Alright.
And then there's a big,
sign like with a QR code, scan that, and then you register there.
Yeah.
And then
Give yourself
2 minutes,
give
yeah, I
yourself
mean,
a
if you just go and fill out, same thing as like any of the DC public testing sites, kind of like name, rank, and serial number, and then just run it right there.
the lines, I thought it was gonna take. You should get it because it's literally.
Yeah, I'm
I've
gonna go
tried
after
every
this.
test in the city. I feel like it's like a long hours. It's the easiest test I've taken.
Is it a rapid?
Yeah, DC is the system. This is as a long time DC resident, I just this is the only DC I've done well.
Public schools, coronavirus testing, that's it, that's the whole list.
Garbage doesn't come on time. And they told me that recycle sometimes it'll take a few hours. I think it's actually when you have a pandemic, count on the city. Yeah, I've done, I had to get a rapid, for, elections, I was working, so we're going on probably to get rid of me in the building, I had to get a rapid test. So then we got that done in like 15 minutes, got the negative test, and then we got out of the building. Then I got a rapid, and I got a PCR test, when I came back.
This is better because my husband did one for DC on Monday and it just came in today. He had missed his entire work.
So I live in Montgomery County, and I
won't have him do it that way again.
it's been taking about 2 days. When I do it, oh yeah, dude, news guys. When I do it like 6 months.
Oh, really?
And it's depending on the number again. No, I mean, he doesn't have a guy. He's from a apartment. But he's older and
And say, well, you can't have all those people.
that's a good way to do it. Like my wife had to get a medical. He's employed by the new chief. It wasn't rapid. Like they do it all. Yeah, it's like all in house, right?
You knew
No problem. They turn it around like
What time is the testing place open? I thought maybe like Friday or Monday.
That's what I think. But I was impressed with the system here.
It's like I Judiciary Square was up 6 o'clock long. The other day I went by it on Tuesday. 6 o'clock.
I went first thing
How long
Monday
does that
morning.
take? How long does that line? I mean, how quickly they
Yeah,
processing people through?
There hasn't been until now. There's a combination of things happening.
There we go.
Pretty
Rudy's son
safe
has
and
COVID.
taking it out.
If you get in a 6 o'clock line, if you get in a 6 o'clock line, how long does that take?
You're gonna have to be more specific.
I don't think that that's, depends on, I think it's more people like, oh, I'm going to the marijuana.
When I got off the train, you're met by health officials when you get off the train. And you have to register with the city, tell them where you came from. Yeah, and they call you, they like call you, like, I was in the heat and they called me your blood to like make sure that like I was mascara inside. And they look for, that's what I read.
I can really.
I did it, I knew that I had to do it
report 500,000 coronavirus tests from South Korea that turned out to be flawed and were never used.
They made a huge deal out of it.
Yeah,
And those are the ones that they like had the National Guard protect.
Yeah.
Right?
And he's like, why can't we?
Yeah.
He was working the phone.
But then they came in and like.
He was on Morning Joe this morning talking about that. Anybody in this room at that press conference that should have emergency?
Yep.
And y'all stayed over there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He said he had it yet? Rudy's son. Right.
Oh, shit, seriously?
Yeah.
I just figured we're all dead because like
was
all the
there.
staffers screamed at me when I asked them to put masks on when they were standing next to me. So I figured that was gonna end well. And there were like people reporting and they weren't wearing masks by there. Cool. Of them. His son has it.
I mean, his son works in the White House, right?
Yeah, we're all.
I think we all did it together.
No, I haven't been. I'm gonna do it Monday.
I'm supposed to do work for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Busy today.
I'm supposed to be there Monday.
Yeah, I was like, I'd rather wait. I don't think Monday will be lower. Good, Monday won't be lower. Monday will be worse because it's closer to Thanksgiving. What is happening is everyone's trying to be able to go home. So that's why there's
I'll leave.
humongous lines right now. So Monday and Tuesday will be worse.
Here?
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm ready for that.
Yeah, I know that, so then you don't have, you can just come here anyway, if you're journalist. Yeah, but I think, yeah, but I think that,
The 30th is fall university.
yeah, well. A lot of offices are doing their stuff. Oh, really? Oh, how about, when you guys find bad, it's blocked your shirt.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's wrapped around the staircase.
Oh, good luck.
I waited in line 20 minutes.
You guys haven't been out there, I've been out there, and that's like privilege.
So when
The
they have
privilege
that,
line, the line is 52.
when they have that 6 block line, what's the length of time? What does that represent? 2 hours?
Well, I mean, everyone's
Oh, it is?
apart, right? You gotta like keep that on it, so maybe it's only like 3 blocks long.
But is it like 2 hours, 3 hours? How long are people waiting?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't do it?
No, I was trying to get my son tested, yes, my husband had it. He just tested negative 3 times, and I was like, well, if there's no line, I'm like, it's not, we'll just like bang it out. Yeah. We're doing kids over 3 now, 4.
Here's a better question.
And I was like, let's just go for a drive. He was like, so happy to get out of our house, but we don't do anything or go anywhere. We went through, he was like so excited to come downtown. So I took a drive and I saw the 6 block line and I was like, hard no fun that one. And my 4-year-old was standing with 6 blocks from Clothing Possible.
So,
yeah.
dude, that is one person in that room. One of those clowns.
Everybody in there has exposure.
No, not everywhere is that.
Well, it is weird. It's better to have a mask on if this person's wearing a mask. Like the most efficacy is to do both masks.
Right. But I think if you were wearing one and I had it, not,
Now,
Yeah,
if
it's
it's a
definitely
criticism of
helpful.
anybody who did, I would not have set foot in that room yesterday. I would have told my bosses, take the live stream. I'm serious. Like, it's not
really
worth
have
it.
an option. So it would have been good. It felt like half the point was to get us all to run all our things. So that's how it felt.
it was a gorgeous day.
It
Because
was
they don't
chilly,
care about you.
but they didn't on purpose didn't do it outside. It's all like a point.
What room was it? Was it in that library opening room?
No,
No,
it's
the
the
lobby,
lobby
the
that we used
R&D
to have
lobby.
discussions all the time.
Yeah,
And it was like
and it was
70, 80
packed.
people.
Because who's not gonna go cover like the lawyers talking about their past predicament?
Me.
Yeah, but CNN was there.
It's like 10
You're not
people
there.
say-
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they were.
Is there a reporter in the room?
Yeah.
Dude, you should have
Who
gone.
got her face laughed at. She was like, she asked a question and they're like, who were you with? And she said CNN and they all were just laughing.
Yeah, I mean,
It was joyous.
In
Bill,
the,
I feel like shit on my own time. I'm not gonna do
yeah,
it.
because Brian used to do it. They come back here.
Oh,
I think
apparently,
they hate that room.
Andrew Giuliani was in that briefing yesterday, in the back of the room.
He was there?
So Maggie's tweeting.
Oh, shit.
Was he wearing a mask?
Of course not.
When we were all in there.
I don't know what he looks like. Let's Google this man. His name's Andrew?
Redhead. He was
just walked into the.
Probably in the back room.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Chaplain, we should have stayed that walkout yesterday. You see, Giuliani's son was there, and he's tested positive today.
Yeah, we should all.
Oh,
We should have all staged a walkout. There's no reason we should have been there.
oh, yeah.
I'm really mad at the reporters for not cutting it short, challenging with questions.
I mean, basically, no one cares if we die.
Your fault, Jared. You weren't there.
I didn't go.
However, if I die, I am like justified
Garrett would've
yelling
raised
at
his
that
hand and
staffer
asked questions.
that we should all die.
I wouldn't have
sat
gone.
there-
I'm
everybody
serious.
sat
I mean,
there and
they've
took it
given
for
us
an
a
hour
lot
and
of leeway to say if we're not gonna cover shit, and I would absolutely not gone into that.
There was a scene on Twitter.
I don't work for CNN for the record, but
Yeah.
But, sorry.
Are you saying CNN sucks? I don't think that's very.
No, I thought you
sorry.
did. I just got mistaken, sorry. There's so many reporters, I can't keep you guys all straight, I'm sorry. I can barely keep
most of us,
photographers straight.
frankly, aren't even doing
Your job.
so it's fine.
Aw. Can't read the number on the Republican. Did you see him though?
Who?
The,
Apparently he wasn't near us physically, but
All your
as,
bases.
as sweaty as Giuliani was, who else are we?
Erin said she saw him. I don't know what he looks like.
I wear the hoodie all the time. Quality today. Remember the beach journalist? Yeah. Mine's too big, so it's like wearing a hug.
Is he wearing a hug?
I got yelled at, person couldn't breathe, and I was like, do you want a recommendation? This one's very breathable.
Don't wear a hug.
Don't wear a hug.
Good morning, everyone. As our nation prepares for Thanksgiving, we just thank God for all the blessings He has bestowed upon us, our men and women in uniform who keep us safe. We thank them and their families for the sacrifices they make for our democracy, for our freedom. This year, we won't be able to be joining each other in the traditional way, but virtually we'll come together to thank God for our blessings. As we do so, though, it will be with great pain. We have lost their lives to the coronavirus. Daily cases have averaged over 160,000 in this past week. Hospitalizations have set a national record for 3 days in a row last week. And over 11 million, it's 11.7 million and growing, people have been infected. Cases are set to rise. On the economic front, 20 million Americans are on unemployment with the benefit expire, and millions have fallen into poverty and are food insecure and face the threat of eviction. So this is what is in our hearts. Sadly, our traditional, some of the things that we do regularly, but especially at Thanksgiving, to minister to those who are food insecure and the rest, will not actually be possible, but nonetheless, we must try. We are in a full-blown economic and health catastrophe, and it's amazing to see the patience the GOP has for other people's suffering. In another week, few weeks, we'll observe the 8th anniversary of Sandy Hook. 8 years ago, we saw the unspeakable horror of innocent children being gunned down at Sandy Hook. The people cried out for gun violence prevention. The Republicans just brushed it off. This too shall pass. Several months ago, we all watched the murder of George Floyd. The American people poured into the streets. In fact, people all over the world poured on into the streets for days and in some cases weeks. But Republicans ignored that, refused to pass legislation. This too shall pass. Now 250,000 Americans, as I mentioned, are dead. The number's rising. Over 6 months ago, when we passed the HEROES Act, Leader McConnell said, we need a pause. We need a pause. Well, I would hope that for him, the pause can come to an end. Nearly 200,000 people have died during that pause. So we're asking him, come back to the table. A few days ago, Leader Schumer and I sent him a letter, which you've all seen, asking the Republicans to come back to the table to meet the needs of the American people, which they have been willing to ignore. We would like to extend some of the provisions of the CARES Act, which are set to expire the end of this year. We want to again add to that meeting the food needs. Over 17 million children in America are food insecure. And we have a hard time getting to put food, addressing those food needs into legislation. We must have that. The American people want that. That's part of our value system. Again, let's have help with rental assistance. Okay, have a moratorium, but unless the rent is paid, people are not going to be able to stay in their homes, and their landlords are not going to be able to pay the bank. So this helps everybody. It has become clear in the past 6 months that we needed more PPP to help our small businesses. Let's work that in, as we have tightened our belt any number of times in our HEROES Act, and once again a month ago to include PPP. The list goes on, but some of these things about unemployment insurance, food security, stopping evictions, PPP to keep our businesses, small businesses, thriving. And they have refused to crush the virus. They even admitted they had no intention of controlling it, much less crushing it. It is my hope that with the vaccine now, that will give a different perspective across the threshold to say there is a light at the end of the tunnel, so that the president and the administration and the Republicans can say, yes, we should follow science in a shorter period of time than we've been through already. If we test, trace, treat, wear a mask, social distance, sanitation, recognizing that the hit that this is taking onto communities of color, if we do what is in the HEROES Act in this regard, we'll be ready for the vaccine to have a big effect right from the start. And in light of the vaccine, as we have in the HEROES Act, and perhaps we should do more now because the vaccine is here, it's imminent, that we should be having the resources to make sure that the vaccine is distributed immediately, equitably, so that everyone has access to it. In that regard, though, for that to happen, the president must implement the Defense Production Act, so that those companies, those entities that are used to this new technology that both Pfizer and Moderna have used, can undertake making this vaccine more available, because we're going to need quite a bit for ourselves and for the world, because unless everyone is safe, as I said, no one is safe. So let's hope that it's time for McConnell's pause to end. We have been working on the omnibus bill, and I thought that would be a segue into this. Let's hope that it is. Again, it is curious to see how they are trying to impede progress. And another misguided act of irresponsibility, Secretary Mnuchin has said he would end many critical emergency lending initiatives at the end of the year. Now, why would they do that? Drawing a rare rebuke from the Fed. Fed rarely speaks out. As the Fed said in its statement, it would prefer the full suite of emergency facilities, facilities established during the coronavirus pandemic to continue to serve their important role as a backstop for our still strained and vulnerable economy. The Fed would prefer the full suite of emergency facilities established during the coronavirus pandemic continue to serve their important role as a backdrop for our still strained and vulnerable economy. It's highly unusual for the Fed to comment in that manner on something said by the Secretary of the Treasury. Again, why? Why? Because they want to impede the ability of the next administration to have everything available to them. The situation could not be more dire. The need for action could not be more urgent. Real meaningful relief is desperately needed. No surprise to anyone, perhaps except Mitch McConnell. The families are losing lives and livelihoods. The hospitals are overwhelmed. The frontline workers are risking their lives and losing their jobs. The parents are unable to put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads. 17 million children in America are food insecure. And we couldn't even get the food issue into the CARES Act. So we need to get it into the legislation now. Schools are unable to keep students and staff safe. That could happen. All we have to do is follow the science. We know how we can open our economy, open our schools safely, but we have to make a decision to follow science and good governance. Again, this week again, Senate Leader Schumer and I wrote to McConnell demanding that he finally come to the table on a bipartisan, bicameral COVID relief. As we said in the letter that I referenced earlier, the dual public health and economic crisis caused by COVID-19 continue to devastate communities across the country. What is becoming clear to all Americans is that we cannot achieve real economic recovery until we address the expanding public health crisis. The time to act is upon us like never before. The pandemic and the economic recession will not end without our help. Later today, Leader Schumer and I will be visiting President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. We're discussing the lame duck session, the urgency of crushing the virus and easing the pain of this economic crisis, keeping government open, as I referenced earlier, the omnibus bill. We're pleased that our Moving America Forward legislation that we passed in the summer and Build Back Better of Joe Biden are so compatible for creating good paying jobs, including through investments in infrastructure, manufacturing, workforce development, clean energy. The list goes on and on. We're very proud. Okay, now you wonder about this. Did you know that House Democrats got nearly 2 million more votes than Donald Trump? I say that because everybody said, well, what? Everybody turned out, and it was a great victory, a mandate. The most important thing we did 2 years ago was win the House. We won 40 seats, 31 of them in Trump districts, in the most gerrymandered, voter-suppressed political arena you could name. 40 seats, 31 in Trump districts. I said then, it's going to be harder next time because he'll be on the ballot. And it was. And so we will lose a few of those seats, a couple in Hillary district and a few in his district. But imagine nearly 2 million more votes than Donald Trump. And people say, well, the Democrats didn't turn out. No, we did. We turned out our votes. In fact, more than 3 million more than the Republicans did. But as I said, again, in the most gerrymandered, voter suppressed political arena with President Trump on the ballot. So I congratulate them for the seats they won. I congratulate him for the turnout that he created. He got a good vote. I don't have Joe Biden up here. What is he up to now? 78 million? 79 million. 79. But I just wanted to show you how we related to these others. So we need everything. We're a family. We're a big tent in our party. We're proud of everyone in it. The turnout was across the board. We do believe that our House races in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia contributed to those electoral college successes, and across the country to the almost 79 million votes that Joe Biden had. We're very proud of him and Kamala Harris. We're proud of him as a unifier for our country. And we're proud of the big vote that House Democrats contributed to that success. Because so many people were saying, well, this and that and the other. No, no, no. We want more, and we will have more, and we've already started that. But I want you to be sure you knew nearly 2 million more votes than Donald Trump. Any questions? Garrett?
Speaker, your oversight committee sent a letter asking for the head of the GSA to come and testify. I'm wondering if you could speak to why they decided to do that now, and more broadly, what do you see as the House's role in ensuring a smooth transition?
Well, I don't know that they asked for a testify. They wanted a briefing. They asked for a briefing. Testify is different. That's a hearing. They asked for a briefing, and that is hopefully before Thanksgiving that will happen. You hope that people would have good faith in the jobs that they have. You want to give them a chance to get that done. It is totally mystifying that the GSA refuses to make the statement necessary for the transition to happen in orderly fashion. They've been sort of Trumpian from the start, from the Trump Hotel and all the rest of that way back when. So no surprise that they are following that lead, which is most unfortunate for the country. But what they're saying is, explain to us what your basis is for going down that place. Yeah. And again, everything was kind of, let it see what happens, let's hope for the best. Let's hope that there be enough Republicans to say, this is America, the people's voices count, and that must be respected. So to the extent, it won't be long before we have a certification, the meeting of the Electoral College, December 14th, and then here in the House on January 6th. But again, it was really trying to be unifying. Let's take our time, let's give them a chance, and that's why we don't have a hearing, we're just having a briefing.
And to the second part of that question, I mean, do you see an expanded role for the House in trying to make sure this process goes smoothly, especially as the president continues to refuse to concede?
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm not one to show my hand, but nonetheless, we're ready. We're ready. Yes, sir.
Between the plots against Governor Whitmer and the two guys who drove up from Virginia to Philadelphia during the county, do you or other Democrats have concerns that the longer this goes on in terms of Trump challenging the vote and other Republicans saying he should exhaust the legal options and it's still an open question and so on, that raises the prospect for violence?
Well, we all have to know that the President of the United States, his words weigh a ton. They weigh a ton. And people hear things in a way that could encourage some unfortunate situations, as they have done in the state of Michigan. you would think that there would be, on the part of all Republicans, a rejection. Did you see the array of agenda items the Michiganders had? Public execution. Have you seen it? Yeah. So you know how dangerous it is. Burning down the Capitol and not getting, shall we say, uh, told that that's not appropriate in our country, but instead having, God knows how, what's his name? Atlas. Oh my God. Did you see his statements that encourage that coming right there from the right hand of the President of the United States? Saying you got to have stir it up in the streets and the rest of that. So this is bad behavior, but again, let's try to be unifying. Let's try to be respectful. There is this element in our country. I don't think Donald Trump created it, but I think he fans the flame. And I think that's a dangerous situation. Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, as you mentioned, businesses are hurting out there, and still
Yes.
there's about 138 million that's allocated in PPP funds that's there, ready,
Yeah.
available. Any possibility on releasing some of that money? for
Well,
the
that's up to
businesses?
the administration. And that's why we're saying, what is this? And plus all the other money that Mr. Mnuchin has discretion over, that's for bigger business, but nonetheless, as the Fed has said, so much a part of our economy uh, it, it's real. That's why I referenced Sandy Hook. Forget about it. That's why I referenced George Floyd. Let's just move on. People are suffering, and if you don't believe in governance, then it's hard. It's easy for you to say we don't really have to do all of these things, and that's what the problem is. But I'm optimistic that we will have bipartisanship to put something together to go forward, because I do believe that many of our colleagues understand what's happening in their districts and to want to make a difference. There's just one big obstacle in the way. In the Senate, it's Mitch McConnell, but the other obstacle, because he does what President Trump says, and that's President Trump. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As far as those negotiations go right now,
Yes, sir.
who are these active negotiations going on with? Is it House Democrats and Leader McConnell? Is
No,
the White
there are
House
no-
involved? When's the last
no,
time you spoke
no,
with
that's not
Treasury
happening.
Secretary Mnuchin?
Yesterday there was a meeting of the staff of the four corners. That'd be the House and Senate Democrat and Republican leaders. The anticipation was that it was really about the omnibus. You have to remember, we have to have an omnibus bill. We must keep government open. That's a very important responsibility during the lame duck. We don't want another continuing resolution. I don't think they do either. So we have an expression yesterday was for the staffs to deal with what we call the ash and trash. Just some of the things that are not up here but need to be resolved so that we can move forward. And that hopefully we would have been able to begin a path to the COVID. That didn't happen, but hopefully it will.
So who do you need to engage with? Is it
Excuse
the
me?
White House? Is it Leader McConnell?
No, these were the four leaders. Four leaders.
No,
Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Mnuchin said this morning that he is meeting with Leader McCarthy and Leader McConnell later today to talk about a stimulus deal for COVID relief. Do you have any plans to talk to him upcoming?
Well, he said in his comments that they would be reaching out, but we're asking him to come back to this. We've been sitting at the table for 6 months plus a week, waiting for them to come back. The obstacles have been they do not want to honor our heroes, our state and local workers, our healthcare workers, our teachers, our first responders, our police and fire, our transportation, sanitation, food workers who make our existence possible. They're saying they don't want to do that. And in fact, many of those workers are laid off. They have risked their lives to save lives, and now they must lose their jobs. Many, over 1 million of them have. The other part of that is that the fiscal soundness of our state and local governments is important to the fiscal soundness of our country. So it doesn't make any sense in terms of meeting the needs of people, honoring the work of our heroes, and again, the soundness of our economy. So we have to get something done. And again, they have been resistant on many of the things that we consider priorities. But everybody knows people are hungry, people are fearing eviction, people need the CARES Act provisions to be extended that address unemployment insurance and the rest. I won't go into how they comment on all of that. But the main thing that they have, the two main things, honor our heroes so that the states and local governments can meet the needs that we talked about, hospitalizations and all the rest. It's coronavirus centric as well as revenue loss because of shutdowns. But this is the most mystifying to me and the most unscientific. They will not decide to crush the virus. My hope is the vaccine will say, okay, there's a path, so let's stop the spread of it while we manufacture more and distribute more of it. That's it. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, you want to combine the lobbying and the COVID deal?
Thank you all.
Do you think you'll hear from the secretary before the end of the day?
Why no condemnation of the violence against Trump supporters last weekend?
Classic Ron.
It was that record, right?